Many relationships in show business don't last, but Paul Newman and Joanne's was one of the cutest and longest lasting in Hollywood. Every woman in the world fell in love with Paul Newman, and Joanne Woodward managed to keep him. For years, she kept quiet while everyone gushed over her marriage. It was said that their love story was perfect and almost holy. Still, Joanne isn't holding back at age 95. She's finally telling the truth about her life with Newman, and what she says breaks the story everyone thought they knew, from my home in Georgia to the heights of Hollywood. Before everyone knew her as Paul Newman's wife, Joanne Woodward was just a girl from the South who wanted to live in the big city. She was born on February 27, 1930, in Thomasville, Georgia, as Joanne Gignilliot Trimier Woodward. Her name meant a lot when she was born. The girl's middle names, which came from her Huguenot background, made it clear that she would stand out. But her background wasn't the only thing that led her to where she is now. It started because her mother was crazy about movies. Eleanor Woodward was so crazy about movies that she named her daughter after Joan Crawford, a famous actress. This gave her child a name that made her want to be successful. As a child, Joanne had one brother named Wade Jr. and was always moving from town to town. As a child, she lived in Thomasville, Blakely, Thomaston, and finally Marietta, Georgia, with the Woodward family. Joanne went to Marietta High School there, where she found her stage for the first time. Really leave. She also never forgot where she came from. She stayed true to her neighborhood even after she became famous, supporting Marietta High School and the city's Strand Theater. She fell in love with Hollywood, but it wasn't in school. It all started in Atlanta on a wild night. Joanne, who was 9 years old at the time, was at the opening of Gone with the Wind. She was swept up in the chaos of the flashing lights and the arrival of famous people. She jumped into the line of players and jumped right onto Laurence Olivier's lap. His partner at the time was Vivian Leigh, who played the famous lead in the movie. For most kids, security would have taken them away, but Joanne made herself stand out. When she worked with Olivier on a TV production of Come Back Little Sheba in 1977, she brought that moment back to his mind. It was clear to him from her face that she was the brave girl who had taken a seat on his lap. Joanne's teenage years took a big turn when her parents split up, and she had to move again. At this point, it was to Greenville, SC. After high school at Greenville, she got more than just a diploma. She left the little theater having shown that she wasn't just a thinker, but also a performer. She went to Louisiana State University to study theater and joined the Chi Omega sorority because she loved it so much. She worked on her skill before aiming for New York City, which was the only stage big enough for her goals. Joanne didn't waste time once she got there. She studied at the Actors Studio and trained with Sanford Meisner at the local playhouse, which put her right where talented people were being made. She wasn't just learning things to say. She was making herself into an actor who would make her mark on Hollywood one day. She was not yet married to Paul Newman. She didn't win the Oscar, or the beautiful half of America's favorite pair. She was just Joanne, the girl from the South who once stormed a movie opening to follow her dreams and not be like everyone else. But she was never going to be regular. She was on fire, and it had been following her from Greenville to LSU to the streets of New York. It was just starting to get going. This girl, who used to watch stars from the outside, was now going into their world to make room for herself, taking over the screen and the stage. As the 1950s began, Joanne Woodward stopped being the little girl who showed up at movie openings. She was really working hard to get into the business. In 1952, she got her first TV job on Robert Montgomery Presents, which was a show called Penny. Even though it wasn't flashy or made the news, it was a start. She was soon rushing to get on stages. She tried out for roles all the time until she got a job as an understudy for the William Inge Play Picnic in 1953 and 1954. This is where fate came in. Behind the scenes, she ran into Paul Newman. He was still married to his first wife, Jacqueline Witt, at the time. But there was no denying the link between him and Joanne. Behind the curtain of a Broadway play, the guy who would become her true love came into her life. Joanne put her ideas to the test on TV. Tales of Tomorrow, Goodyear Playhouse, Danger, the Philco Goodyear Television Playhouse, the Ford Television Theater, and Omnibus were just a few of the shows she was in. She wasn't a star yet, but she played track over and over again until Hollywood couldn't ignore her. Count Three and Pray, a Western set after the Civil War, was her first movie role. It came out in 1955. Her big break came from the part, and Fox gave her a long-term deal. In 1956, she was the lead in the thriller A Kiss Before Dying, which starred Robert Wagner as a rich princess. This movie gave us a taste of how captivating she could be in movies. She even sneaked back to Broadway with The Lovers. The show didn't last long, but Joanne's desire to be on stage and screen never went away. Things changed, though, in 1957. The Three Faces of Eve by Joanne Woodward shocked everyone. Critics couldn't believe they were seeing the same actor in the same movie because she played a woman with three different personalities: a housewife, a seductive rebel, and a balanced young woman. The Academy also couldn't do it. The Oscar for Best Actress went to Joanne, who wore a dress that she had sewn together herself. There was no fancy dress or Hollywood style, just Joanne, her raw ability, and a needle and thread. It was the kind of moment that made her famous as an outsider. After that, she became Fox's main lady. Her fame grew with movies like No Down Payment and The Sound and the Fury with Yul Brynner. In The Fugitive Kind, Sidney Lumet cast her with Marlon Brando and Anna Magnani. The movie didn't do very well at the box office, but Joanne's work with Paul Newman was getting all the attention. They were both in From the Terrace and Paris Blues. She later said she liked From the Terrace most because she thought she looked like Lana Turner, showing that their relationship was just as strong off-screen as it was on. In 1963, Joanne felt brave enough to try burlesque for the first time. She worked closely with Gypsy Rose Lee to improve her moves. By the middle of the 1960s, she was up against big names like Sean Connery in A Fine Madness and A Big Hand for the Little Lady, which wowed crowds. But Newman created and directed Rachel, in which she gave one of her most moving performances, playing a lonely teacher who wants to find love. She was nominated for another Oscar for the part, which proved she was more than just Mrs. Newman. By the late 1970s, Joanne had worked in every kind of art. She worked with Burt Reynolds in The End, won an Emmy for her role in See How She Runs, and reunited with Laurence Olivier in Come Back, Little Sheba, which made him remember the time she jumped into his lap as a kid. She showed she wasn't just an actor by directing an episode of Family in 1979. She was also smart enough to run the show. She had a lot to do in the 1980s. She was in The Shadow Box and Crisis at Central High School. In 1981 and 1982, she went back to Broadway and played Candida. In 1983, she starred with Newman again in Harry and Son. She won another Emmy for her role in the 1985 TV movie Do You Remember Love? She also wrote and directed plays when she wasn't starring. In 1982, she adapted Shirley Jackson's Come Along With Me, and in The Glass Menagerie, she played Tennessee Williams. Joanne wasn't just getting parts, she was also getting awards and praise. She won several Emmys, an Oscar, and was even recognized as a director for Broadway's Dreamers, which is the legacy of the group theater. She was able to prove it decade after decade, that her husband, her marriage, or even the Hollywood machine didn't make her who she was. She carved her name into the rock. From TV to the stage to movies, Joanne Woodward built her career on risky choices, honest performances, and a lack of Hollywood style that set her apart. She wasn't looking for fame. She was after the work. This made her stand out, making her memorable. Joanne's story was never just about work, though. It was also about the man she had been with for 50 years. Through the happy times and the sad times, she not only left her own mark on the world, but she also helped make one of the best love stories in Hollywood history. A friendship that turned into love. When Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward fell in love, it wasn't like any other Hollywood fling. It set the bar for how a marriage and show business could work together. From 1958 until Newman's death in 2008, they were married for 50 years. During those decades, they made a life full of love, family, heartbreak, and leaving a legacy. It was a quiet relationship at first. They met for the first time while Newman was still married to Jackie Whitty in the Broadway play Picnic. Joanne didn't fall in love right away. She talked about how she wasn't immediately blown away by his good looks, but that she finally compared him to an ice cream soda on a hot day. It was impossible to say no to something so perfect. When they met again on the set of The Long Hot Summer in 1957, their friendship became stronger than anything else. Soon after, Newman's first marriage ended, and he began a new life with Joanne. They got married in Las Vegas on January 29, 1958. Right away, Newman's 3 kids from his first marriage, Scott, Susan, and Stephanie, made Joanne their mom. She and Newman had 3 more children together: Melanie, Eleanor Nell, and Claire Klee. They lived with their family in Westport, Connecticut, which was a long way from the madness of Hollywood. Their first child, Nell, was born in April 1959, the same year that Newman got the lead part in The Young Philadelphians. Nell would later try her hand at singing under the name Nell Potts. In 1993, she started Newman's Own Organics. They had a daughter named Melissa in 1961. She was born on the same day that their movie Paris Blues opened in theaters across the U.S., a twist that fit a family that lived and breathed movies. Melissa followed her parents into performance for too short of a time. The youngest, Claire Klee, was born in 1965. She grew up loving horses and became a nationally ranked rider before giving her time to her father's charity work. The bond between them at work grew as their family did. In 1963, they definitely left their mark at Grauman's Chinese Theater. They pressed their hands and feet into the cement and signed their names next to their prints. In 1958, Joanne was one of the first people to be honored on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. This was many years before Newman got his star in 1994. Their marriage was based on more than just fame or looks. It was also funny. Joanne once said that even though Newman was a jerk, the most important thing to her was that he could make her laugh, and that's what kept them going. He told it like it was when people asked him about his faithfulness. "I had steak at home." That meant there was no need to get a meal. Their jobs often crossed paths. Rachel in 1968 was one of their best works together. Newman was in charge, and Joanne just stared. That year, both the husband and wife were nominated for an Academy Award. It was one of the few times that husband and wife had been celebrated in this way together. Nell, their daughter, even played a younger version of her mother's role in the movie. Joanne won a Golden Globe and the Best Actress Award at Cannes for her role in The Success Few. El Gamma Rays on Man in the Moon Marigolds in 1972, which was directed by Newman and starred Nell again. But there was also tragedy in their life. Scott, Newman's oldest son, died at age 28 from an accidental drug and alcohol overdose in 1978. Later, Newman revealed that he had told himself that Scott's behavior was just the result of being a careless teenager, and that he had gotten down on his knees more than once to beg his son's forgiveness. In honor of Scott, Newman opened the Scott Newman Center to teach people about drug abuse. The loss was very hard on the family, but Newman and Joanne gave even more to charity afterward. They started the Hole in the Wall Gang Camp in Ashford, Connecticut in 1988. It was a free place where kids with serious illnesses could have fun and make friends. It became one of Newman's biggest causes, and famous people came together to support it. He once said that playing hadn't taken away from his duties as a citizen. After all that, he still had to give back. Their work on movies slowed down, but they were always together. The last time they worked together on screen was in the 2005 HBO movie Empire Falls. Both were up for Emmy, Golden Globe, and SAG Awards, but Newman won all of them. It was a perfect ending for a couple who had worked together for decades to make each other's work better. When no one else was around, their love stayed strong. They quietly enjoyed their 50th wedding anniversary in 2008, which is a big deal, because not many Hollywood couples ever get to this point. Joanne once thought that having a partner who could make her laugh every day was the best gift because beauty fades and doesn't last forever. He died that same year after a long fight with lung cancer. He passed away at his Westport home on September 26, 2008, with family and friends by his side. He was 83 years old. Newman and W. Woodward beat the odds in Hollywood for 50 years. Their marriage was based on humor, trust, and a strong bond between them. They were in love, worked together, and helped others. In the end, they showed that a real love story could last even in a world full of lies. The life of Joanne Woodward was full of many tragedies. In February, Joanne Woodward turned 95 years old. She spent her birthday in Connecticut, away from the cameras and fame. She was one of the last great Hollywood stars from the Golden Age. She was the talk of the business, won an Oscar, and was married to Paul Newman. She seemed to have it all. Joanne hasn't been in the news in over 10 years. Philly, which came out in 1993, was her last movie part. Her last TV appearance was in 2005, when she was in Empire Falls with Paul. Her last public showing was in 2013. Since then, nothing. When Paul died in 2008, Joanne took a huge step back. In December 2024, the couple's fancy Manhattan apartment, which was always full of parties with famous friends, was put on the market for almost $10 million. The glitz is gone. Today, Joanne lives in the old family home from the 1800s in Westport,